Hi, and welcome to Sentence Patterns 6, 7, and 7a. These three patterns are all about the magic of the appositive. The appositive, as you're going to discover, is a fantastic way to add extra information to your already interesting sentences. Here's the plan for what we're going to do today. First, we'll figure out what an appositive is. Since you're going to be using it, good idea to actually know what it is. We're going to look at pattern 6, 7, 7a, and of course explore the magic of punctuation because different kinds of punctuation act differently when we're talking about the appositive. First of all, what is an appositive? This puppy. What would you call this dog holding a tulip? Anything you might call it that's a noun would be an appositive. It might be a golden lab. It might be an adorable puppy. It might be the destroyer of all my shoes. Any of those words are classified as an appositive, which is essentially just a noun describing another noun. Pattern 6 looks like this and uses appositives in an interesting way. Olives, peppers, onions, and cucumbers. These toppings adorn my favorite vegetarian pizza. Take a look at this sentence for a minute and see if you can figure out what pattern 6 actually is. Olives, peppers, onions, cucumbers. These toppings adorn my favorite vegetarian pizza. Olives and peppers and onions and cucumbers. These toppings adorn my favorite vegetarian pizza. These are both examples of sentence pattern number 6. But notice in the first example, we can see a syndeton. There are no conjunctions between each of the appositives, the nouns that are describing the toppings. The second example, olives and peppers and onions and cucumbers, is polysyndeton, where you have a conjunction between each appositive. Okay, so you've got these lists of appositives, and you know that you can use them in different ways for different effect, depending on if you want to use a syndeton or polysyndeton. But what is pattern 6? Slytherin, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, each house offers its members both affirmation and companionship. Pattern 6 looks like this. Appositive, appositive, appositive. Summary word, subject, and verb. What are some possible summary words? Well, here's a list. They come after the list of appositives. A word like such, all, those, this, many, each, which, what, these, something, someone. Summary words tell the reader, okay, I just told you all of these things, and here is my signifier word. Examples can be super helpful. The cacti, the succulents, the aloe, all these she killed with her overzealous watering. In this sentence, our possible summary words are all these. All these point to the list of dead plants that comes earlier in the sentence. You can also switch up this example. You'll notice in the first example, the appositives are all at the beginning. In the second example, they're all at the end. Both ways work and can be super interesting in your sentences. Why use sentence pattern 6 at all? 3 appositives, a summary word, subject plus verb. Well, it gives you some cool sentence variety. It actually takes a bunch of information and condenses it and gives your reader that information in a way that is quite interesting. It draws attention to special sentences. It's a fairly dramatic pattern. When you have the three appositives, a summary word, the subject and the verb, as a reader, that tends to make us stop and provide for a dramatic moment. So save it for those kinds of times. Pattern 7 is going to give us a different internal variation where you'll be able to see how an appositive can work inside a sentence. Here's a sentence that is in pattern number 7. I saw my beloved city, the Hancock Building, the green lake, the curving shore, and realized that I was home. What do you think pattern 7 looks like? Here's another example. Einstein's many discoveries, the photoelectric effect, the principle of relativity, the beginnings of quantum mechanics, changed the world of physics forever. Do you think you can write a sentence that's in pattern 7? Here's what it looks like. You get the subject, and then you have either a dash or a parentheses, the three appositives, but you have to close it out with either a dash or parentheses on the other side. The other thing about pattern 7 is that instead of using appositives, you could use modifiers. So instead of having nouns that are renaming the subject, you actually have adjectives that are modifying that subject. Here's an example. The benefits of sleep, sharper thinking, improved athleticism, healthier heart, and weight loss are often underestimated by those cramming for finals. This sentence uses the em dashes for a more dramatic effect. If you want a quieter effect, you can write the same sentence, but use parentheses. You can see that it's almost just a whisper of an interruption when you use the parentheses. When you use a modifier, you can see that adjectives come after the noun, and the adjectives can be set off also with dashes or with parentheses. In both cases, independent, bright, hardworking are all modifiers. They're adjectives that are telling us more information about those strong women. Of course, you'll also notice that I'm using a syndeton in this sentence, and there are no conjunctions. There's a grammar test to figure out if you are doing these sentences correctly. If you take out the information in parentheses or between the dashes, ask yourself, is it a complete sentence? If it is, then you're fine and can move forward. Okay, so why use sentence pattern 7? It does provide for a dramatic interruption. It also adds interesting information in a way that helps the reader pause in the middle of a sentence. Pattern 7a is a little different. In pattern 7a, you'll only see one appositive. You might be using this pattern all the time, even now, without really realizing it. Here's pattern 7a. Her favorite holiday, Thanksgiving, brings together the entire family in a cacophony of turkey, pie, and football. Can you guess what 7a looks like? Here it is, but it comes in 3 forms, with the dash, with the parentheses, or with the comma. Each is correct and each serves its own unique purpose. Here's an example with the dashes. The bouquet, a riotous amount of daisies, brightened her day. You can see that in this case, we have an appositive that is actually fairly lengthy, right? It's not just one word. A riotous amount of daisies is essentially a noun phrase that is acting there as an appositive modifying bouquet. Because it's set off with the dashes, it seems fairly dramatic, as do those daisies. Here are 3 examples that can highlight for you the different uses of the punctuation. The bonfire, a glorious conflagration, lit up the night. The bonfire, a crackling companion, served as a romantic backdrop. Or the bonfire, a modest experiment, warmed our toes. Each of these examples highlights how the punctuation can be used to achieve just the effect you want. So why use sentence pattern 7a? Well, it provides for a dramatic interruption if you use the dashes. It can be a whisper if you use the parentheses. And if you use commas, it almost inserts the information inconspicuously in a hidden way. In summary, appositives can add depth and interest to our writing, just like most of the sentence pattern variations. Insert them anywhere in a sentence. They can go in the beginning, the middle, or the end. Play with asyndeton and polysyndeton. Play with the different forms of punctuation to see the effects that you get. See what you can create. And as always, have some fun.